Thank you for reminding me. Okay, Marshall, let me know when you're ready. Good. Okay. We will have a meeting of the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board of the Village of Cooperstown to order at 5:02. And we're going to open a public hearing for the proposed application to demolish the garage at 12 Linden Avenue. Is anybody here to speak to that? Chris, did you get any communications regarding it? Okay, we'll leave the public hearing open up for a little bit. Now we will also open the public hearing for the proposed application to demolish the garage at 20 Nelson Avenue. Is anybody here to speak to that? Okay. Chris, did you get any communications regarding that?
No communication.
We will leave both public hearings open for a little bit. And we're going to move on to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is 15 Church Street. Is Will here?
Yeah.
Will, would you like to come and sit in one of these seats, please? And have a seat and tell us about your project.
Yeah, so there's a few different parts to it. I'll start with the easier stuff, which is the siding on the left side of the house and the siding in the back of the house. We're going to rip those off and replace them with wood siding, the same dimensions. When we do that, we'd like to add 2 windows in the back of the house and replace all the windows. Actually, throughout the entire house, I'd like to replace all the windows with same windows, the same dimensions, made from wood. I'm going to hand make them. And the only real difference will be it'll go from a single pane window to a double pane window. Just kind of modernizing them that way. But the storm windows will be the exact same single pane. I'm going to reuse the original glass that was there. And then the 2 larger items, or 3 larger items, is there's a door on the back of the house on the right-hand side. We just want to remove that and replace it with a window, same dimensions and style as the existing windows on that side of the house.
On the back or the side of the house?
It's on the side of the house.
Okay.
It's got like a little pyramid roof over it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you want to explain how you'd like to replace that door? Explain how you'd like to replace that door?
Oh, we just want to remove it, put siding there, and then put a window up where that door is, basically.
And I'm assuming the roof gets removed as well, the overhang roof?
The overhang roof also gets removed, yes.
Okay. And then do you want to tell us what else you'd like to do?
There was an original double porch on the front of the house. We'd like to put that back onto the house. Unfortunately, we can't do exactly, I only have a photo to go off. I can't do exactly what's there because it looks like one of the windows was removed and the window was moved over. So if we did the exact same size, the post that goes down the right-hand side of the double porch would be over the window. So yeah, you see there's 2 windows there next to the entrance, and now there's only 1 window.
Right.
So our options are either move the porch basically directly up against the entrance or move it to the far end of the house. And we'd like a bigger porch in the front, so we'd like to move it to the end of the house. And then the styling of it would be exactly as close that I can get into the picture, so same sort of woodwork there that's represented. And again, all made out of wood, no vinyl, nothing like that.
So your computer-generated drawing doesn't show brackets, railings, balusters, things like that, but you intend to recreate the brackets, the railings, the balusters as they were?
As close as I can get to that photo as possible.
Do you know when this picture was taken that you provided?
I have no idea.
Interesting what they did with the windows.
Yeah, if you look at the windows in that old photo were, I would love to do that, but that's just not possible. But there's 6 pane, I think there's six windows in each, I don't know, how do you say that? There's 6 window panes?
Divided lights.
Divided lights.
Yeah. But now it's just a double up window.
Yeah, I mean, just changing the fenestration, moving, the windows around or adding or subtracting windows, that's what I find fascinating too. One of those second floor windows must have been a doorway?
If you look in the photo, it doesn't look like there was a doorway out to the second story of the porch. I know, so we would love to put a door there so we could actually use the second story of the porch. That's also in the plans. And the door would be, there's a door in the back of the house. So I don't think I wrote this in there, so I apologize, but I would do the same styling as the door that's in the back of the house on the second floor that leads out to the top of the porch. It's a simple door, it's 3 feet. It's 3 feet wide and it has 8 windows in it.
And which window would you be?
It'd be the middle window there. And actually, it's funny, if you go on the inside, you can see where there used to be a hallway that led to that window, and they took that hallway down, and you can see the spots on the floor where there must have been a door at some point up there, but in the photo, it's non-existent.
And then the other item you're proposing?
This is the bigger item. There is a porch on the back of the house that's sort of falling down, and we'd like to replace it with a 2-story addition. It would only come out as far as the back of the house is right now. On however way you look at the house, it would only meet as far out as the house is currently.
And it's like extruding the house out longer.
We gain, from the porch, we gain about a foot to the back, which meets the back exterior wall, and then it comes out about 2 more feet on the left-hand side of the house and meets the existing wall, which is our living room.
And it'd be flush with that existing wall?
It would be flush with the existing wall. And then if you look in that old picture, it looks like there was a structure in the back there. In that original photo that has that double porch, if you look in the back, there's a window on the second story that if you look at the current photo, there is no window there, and that's above the porch. And then with that, we'd have to redo the roof, obviously above it, put a roof on it somewhere.
But you're talking about extending a dormer roof from the front to the back as well?
Yes.
Which really dramatically changes the appearance of the front of the house.
It would, yes.
So you don't really show us a full-on image of the front of the house with that dormer. You just have it cut off here. Do you have any images of the front of the house with that dormer?
Did I not include that? I did not.
Yeah, the picture number 3, which sort of illustrates the porch, has a little bit of it.
Right, but not a full.
Yeah.
It would be the same styling. I can send another photo, but it would be the same styling as what's represented in the back. The only difference being we would put a single window instead of 2 windows. So it would have the same sort of, there's a vent at the top that would also be present in the front of the house. And instead of 2 windows, it'd be 1 window.
It's a pretty dramatic change to the street-facing appearance of the house. Okay, going back to the page number 7, which has from what I see, the rear.
Yes.
So the doorway is gonna be a door that kind of mimics the front door, lights and a transom light, is that what you're proposing for that? I just wanna make sure I'm looking at the right thing.
Yes. It would mimic the dimensions in the front door. Yes. I think the biggest difference from an American structural standpoint is the door would be on the ground level, as opposed to the front door is elevated at the top of the foundation.
No, the rear-facing door doesn't.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I'm getting the right perspective here.
Okay.
So Pat, do you have any questions?
I do. Do you have any drawings or samples of your balusters and the brackets for your porch?
No, I do not. All I have is the original photo, and
This is the new.
the only reason I didn't draw them is because what I'm planning to do is what you can see in that image.
Are you a turner?
Who's your house name?
No, I'm not. My father is a contractor, so he would be helping me do the work.
Okay. Do you know what the wood is that you're describing as wood?
The material, the actual wood species.
What wood are you using?
I would not know. I would have to get the contractor and get them to tell me which wood I should use for it.
I mean, quite frankly, I would really need to. In other words, doing the balusters to the best of your ability could be a long way from what we look for in the village. And that's my ability as well.
We'd need, if we approve the porch, we'd need to see samples of a turned baluster and railing material, et cetera, in a field change, samples of the brackets, the detail before you install those, because this certainly is not, at this point, enough information. So going back to the front porch and the front door, are you replacing things around the front door, adding side lights and a transom?
Yes.
And then is the front door being replaced as well?
The front door is being replaced. The front door itself would mimic what's there now. Yes. The addition would be the side lights, and then.
So does the opening change?
You mean
The opening of the front doorway, or does the use of side lights, addition of side lights, change the framing of the front door? Does the whole frame of the front door get removed, and does that all disappear then?
That all disappears, yes. It gets replaced.
So, well, I'm not sure, because this is a pretty complicated application, whether we can call this complete tonight.
That's totally okay.
I think people may have questions, and you may be able to come back with us with more detail. I will speak for myself and say that I would not vote for that change of roof line extending to the front of the house and the dormer on the front of the house. We would need to have specs, details on the proposed door, ideally, certainly before installed, a drawing that shows us what that door looks like and the materials, the lights around it, the materials it's made out of, etc. The decking of the porch, what material you're going to use for that, and what material is going to be used along the front skirt of the porch, things like that.
By material, how specific?
Are you using wood, paintable wood? Are you proposing some other material?
Okay.
Things like
but
that.
Wood is sufficient, right? I don't need to say it's pine or cedar, or there's no.
Wood is sufficient. at that level, we would certainly advise you to choose your wood carefully. But wood is sufficient, yes. Trying to think of the immediate questions I have. But Pat, what other questions do you have before we move around the table?
I would really need, personally, I mean, and if I were doing it myself, I would demand the same thing of myself. I would need to see a sample of what a turned baluster is going to look like. And the bracketry, which it's hard to tell from the photograph exactly what the bracketry looks like, but I'm going to try to find out if it's similar to the brackets I have on my house, but the brackets as well. I mean, in other words, you can buy a turned post, but the balusters are going to be a little tricky. If your dad's a turner, then you can knock them out, you know, all day long, but most of us can't.
And so we really need to see the detailed plans for, are you replicating this as it appears in the picture? Or is this closer to really what you're planning on doing with the vertical pieces, et cetera? Because there are plenty of brackets and details along the railing line and where the railing meets the post, things like that. So we need to kind of see what you're actually proposing to do, not the, very kind of, this doesn't give us a lot of detail. If this is what you're going for, we need to know it, versus are you trying to do your best to recreate this, and where are the lines going to be drawn? What is and isn't going to be recreated?
So I am going to try and replicate that as best of my ability based on the photo. And then to your concern, I have a question. Would it be helpful if I found something else in town that looked similar to that photo, and then got photos of that, and then also again come up, get some sort of replica of it.
But if it's sourced, not on another porch, but you're going to buy it from this store or this contractor, this is what they make. Not here, this is on this porch, this is what we want. We need to know what you're going to use, if you're turning it, what it's going to look like. And the same with the brackets and how the treatments and transitions are going to be. And if you're proposing something different for the skirting below the decking, we need to see what you're proposing, or if you're going to use that lattice, because the image is a kind of solid piece, so we need to kind of have all those things.
Again, I would try to get as close to that photo as possible, so that the skirting, everything would be identical. Sorry, again,
I think what she's saying is, if you're gonna get as close to that as possible, we just need to see the drawing.
We need to know
what the drawing needs to look like as close as possible.
Yeah.
Instead of the drawing being like general, this is the shape of the porch, like we need the detail from the picture to be on the drawing.
Thank you. If I'm not making sense.
No, sorry.
So the specs on the door, you're recreating the windows by building them yourself. I don't see many with divided lights at this point, correct? Only one or two?
There are, it's two windows. There's only two lights.
Okay.
One,
right,
that's
one over
like
one.
1 over 1. There's one light over one light. So the old picture has 6 lights over 6 lights. That's the term.
Okay.
So you're just going to replace these 1 over 1
Yes.
windows with newly reconstructed wood 1 over 1 windows.
That's right.
With an addition of a storm window.
The existing storm windows are there.
Okay, you're going to rebuild the
Are you
storm
going to
window.
keep the storm window that exists, or are you going to build new storm windows?
I have to build new ones. The existing ones, if you go by my house, you'll see that they're sort of rotting and falling off.
Okay.
So.
One more question or concern, which is just the lot this is on is sort of a narrow lot.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that when the addition is put on the back, that it doesn't infringe on setback, from your neighbors on the other side. It might not, just be nice to have it indicated, like, this will be X amount of feet from.
Oh, okay, you want how far it would be from.
Right, there's a point at which
property,
you'd be encroaching, and we just want to make sure you're fitting in there.
Okay, I'll add that to the application.
Sounds like a cool project.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
Yeah, but I am really concerned about the change in the roof line, certainly in the front, but exceeding the height of the front of the house by changing the roof line in the back isn't, kind of a great proposal in my mind either. So those are concerns. I don't know if you have similar concerns, or?
I understand.
No, I share that concern now.
Yeah.
But also, I think this porch existed to have a door, so they didn't have any concern about a headroom. You're putting a dormer up above where that door would be to facilitate access to the front porch, or is the dormer related?
The dormer would solely be in the attic, that it would be.
So it's not something that's critical for that door?
No, it's not critical. I wish it was. It would make the application a lot stronger, but it's not. It's purely if we did do that, the attic would then be usable, plus the attic, there are issues with the attic and it's rotting and we have to replace it anyway. If we're going to replace it, how should we replace it? And do we want it to be usable space, or right now it's very, very low.
So I think you said this, but it's not clear from any of the drawings that you submitted. The addition, the sort of reconfigured back portion, the width that you're proposing is the same width as the combined width of the existing rear L and the porch that is next to it, or is the dimension different?
The dimension is, so the porch is smaller than what I'm proposing.
Okay, yeah.
If you look at the existing photo, there is a window in the back that's visible in the picture, and it would basically just be taking that wall and extending it out until it meets the line with the back wall.
So I think it would be really helpful to have a floor plan that also, references the lot line, as was already mentioned.
Yep.
So an overview from a bird's eye view, looking down, showing us the footprint existing, proposed, what's, we get what's being removed, but seeing that, and then as Aaron said, its proximity to the lot line. And are there setback issues with that, Chris, with the change?
I haven't been able to see the overhead to measure, but if you want to figure that out, that's why I asked, so.
I'm curious about whether you thought about putting the porch for the whole front of the house and why you chose to apply for I see why the one side needs to be extended, but I'm just out of curiosity, I'm not suggesting it look better, but I'm just curious as to whether you thought about doing the whole front.
So we did talk about it, and we just felt it was unnecessary to do the whole length of the front of the house.
Yeah.
Also, it'd be nice to get some light in the front room that isn't blocked by it.
That's true.
That's the other thing which my wife pointed out, because she's better about those things, and she's like, if we do put the double porch on, then the living room becomes a dark cave. And so instead of doing that, plus there's a basement window just at the edge of where we would put the porch that would cover that basement window. And it is, right now, it's completely foamed off, so you don't get any light anyway. And so the idea would be, if we did do the double porch, then covering that up, basically, and removing the window, or something to that extent. It would be covered by the double porch, but.
Makes sense.
So,
I was just curious.
Is this a listed house?
Pardon me?
Is this a listed
Yes,
house?
this is listed as contributing. Bernie, did you have any other questions?
Nope.
Aaron?
Actually, I did have one more question. You say you're gonna replace the one door with a door just like it is. What's the issue with the existing door?
the existing door, the windows are, one is cracked, and the frame, the window itself, the seal is a copper one, and it's sort of, what's the word? Broken, but it's not broken. It's like cracked in places, so air is coming through. It doesn't quite fit the doorway. I had to do a lot of work to actually get it so it opens correctly, but even now it doesn't open. I have to slam it shut. The door, the knob that's there doesn't line up with the lock anymore, so I have to actually lock the door, otherwise the wind will blow it open. Like, there's a bunch of small issues that it's like, we either replace the door or I spend an extremely long time reworking the door to fit the space that it's supposed to be. And then underneath the door, there's a significant amount of rot because the rain hits the stone patio in front and splashes up against the house. I have another photo, and there's actually like a windowed-in sort of porch. You see those very, very common. The neighbors also have it. That used to be there, and at some point that got torn down, and it's just the stone patio that remains. So
I have one more question.
Please.
So your proposed change 1 says replace the siding on the back of the house and the left side of the house, but then it seems like that proposed change is negated by the proposal for the addition.
Not entirely true. So the left side of the house, it wouldn't be affected at all by the addition. Actually, it wouldn't be affected by any other work.
Right, but the back of the house would be.
The back of the house would.
I think that you would need to, like, if you're gonna add a whole second part to the back of the house, that siding would need to be uniform across the back of the.
Some of it would have to be replaced, yes.
Okay.
You may want to consider the whole, because blending at that point might be a problem. I think that's what you're suggesting.
It's really difficult to blend.
You may have,
Right.
and it may create weathering problems and moisture problems too. If you're trying to blend it,
It wasn't clear to me how number 1 and number 5 relate to each other. Because from the drawing, the new rear L looks like an entirely new structure. So understanding how the existing rear L and the newly constructed portion that replaces the porch that you're removing, how those actually fit together. Because it's like it seems like it's a different roof line. It has to be a different roof line.
It has to be a different
And then,
Well,
there's
that's
a lot
why
of changes back there, so it seems like two different projects.
I
Like
just.
siding on the left side of the house and siding on the back of the house are like two completely different things to consider because they are impacted by different other parts of the project.
We were thinking if this is good for 2 years, what we'd initially do is replace the back siding of the house, and then when we added on the addition, we would eat the cost of having to rip off, probably a good portion of the siding that's there, and then put on the new siding.
So we need to understand what your long-term goal is. So if your long-term goal, because replacement in kind of wood siding is not required, does not require a review.
Okay.
But if your long-term goal is to add this addition and have it newly sided, then that's kind of, the bigger picture as opposed to the piecemeal picture, and that replacement of siding in kind in the short term, as long as it's an in-kind wood siding to match existing, we don't need to approve that. But we do need to understand how you're gonna treat it in the long term with the addition, once the addition is approved, okay?
Okay.
So and we need to be very clear about footprint, and we need to be very clear about perspective from each side, floor to roof line, so we understand how what you're proposing will change the appearance of the structure, front, back, sides.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so as much information as you can bring about any materials you plan to use, like the doors, things like that, the door you're proposing replacement of, and where you don't have that detail, for example, with the proposed addition, if you're not sure, doors, things like that, that is when you would come back for a field change. and where you're installing new windows, for example, on the proposed new windows on the addition, if you don't have those details at this point, you would come back for a field change, as well as specifics on trim and details on the porch. Okay? I'm sure we're going to see you again, and we understand that this happens incrementally, but if you do have a vision, please try to articulate it and present it, so we understand what the overall goal is, even if it's gonna happen over a few years, okay?
To that, I was thinking of writing like a longer thing, but then I knew that most likely you would look at this sort of right before the meeting happens. Would it be better if I wrote out?
It would be better if we
Okay.
have as much visual detail as possible that gives us the ability to clearly understand what you're trying to do, with some bulleted points and as much information about the materials that might change, things like that. Okay? So it doesn't have to be a long narrative.
Okay, cool.
We need visual detail. We need as specific as possible. Okay.
Pictures worth 1,000 words.
Yes, yes, or a good drawing that's complete and comprehensive. Okay?
To that, it's 1 month from now is the next meeting.
The 8th of August.
8th of August, okay. I will try to have something better than this.
Yeah. And remember, we are very concerned about the street-facing view of the building, the public right-of-way facing view of the building, maintaining its historic character. So changes in roof line there, really not acceptable in terms of change in historic character. So the dormer, the heightened roof line have been turned down in other projects, okay? So just don't.
Yeah, no, I know, and I knew, when I put that in there, I was like, this is a stretch, but I just wanted to see, again, this is like my first experience with this, so I wanted to see basically a learning
Whether we'd
experience.
notice.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, now I've taken note, okay. And then, actually, I'm sorry, I know this is taking
okay,
a long time. But the other question, I have another drawing of that same roof line pushed back. If you push it all the way back to the top of the existing roof, then I only gain, it's like 18 inches. It's a little triangle that'd be right next to the chimney. Is it that, it's a drastic change to have that window in the front, but if that were to drop back and it was only, say, 18 inches, is that more acceptable, or is it just any change is like?
The visibility from the street is still there, and it was very unusual for an addition to be taller than the main portion of the house. So historically, it would be very inappropriate to have that rear house taller than those big house, little house, back house.
Yep.
They kind of step down in size traditionally. So you can bring us options. I'm not saying
cool.
we're gonna,
Yep.
but it's not really historically appropriate to do that. And we might ask for that.
He doesn't need to come back in a month, does he?
No, we can come back whenever you want. It doesn't have to be ready in a month.
In other words, you don't have a deadline of a month, but it'd be better to get it the way you want it rather than rush it and not get it at all.
Can plans be submitted early for however?
Yes, they should be submitted a week before, 10 days before. By the first of the month, I think you're asking for
Yeah, we
things
usually
by?
ask for 2 weeks before
Yeah,
our meeting.
yeah. So we have them for a good, because we don't just review right before the meeting. We get the materials, that's why there's a deadline, Chris gets them to us, and most of us go out and look at your house.
Okay.
So if you saw strange people walking in your driveway, that was us.
Wow.
So we do kind of take it seriously when we look at an application.
And if there are parts that are unrelated, I'm just speaking from my own experience, having been before this board as a homeowner, if you have things you want to move on more quickly that are more straightforward, just submit it as a separate application.
Okay.
Or
Yeah, you don't
as a
have to do,
phase
like-
of this application.
Or like, here's everything I ever want to
Right.
do to my house for the rest of time. You don't have to put that all in the same submission, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a separate fee. You can say to Chris, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to do it before the snow flies, so can we get an approval on this? And then the application remains open. We know you want to do these other additional things. When you're ready to talk about them, we begin to review them.
Okay, that helps.
Thank you
so
for
much.
pointing that out.
Thank you, yes, okay, because now I
From the
don't-
eyes of the new person who is not.
You can come and sit in this chair as many times as
No,
you want.
I was thinking like the wood turning and getting the actual pieces of the front of the house. I was
No,
like, that's-
we don't
No,
need,
no, no.
but we need to do it before you plan to buy it, you know, we
Yes,
need to
yes,
do
of
it
course.
before you've made 100 of them. We need, you know, save yourself a little effort, okay? So, okay,
Stay on your dad's good side.
What's up?
Stay on your dad's good side.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm trying. I was like, well, you bought a house where? How old is it? Yeah.
I didn't mean that you were committed to a turn, but I at least would need to see a to-scale drawing of what the baluster and what the fragments look like. It doesn't have to be a full model, it just has to be, I have to be able to know what I'm looking at. We're gonna be looking at it for a lot of time. Well, not too much time.
I applaud the effort to restore that porch. I mean, that's a big undertaking, so, but, you know, do yourself and your house a favor and give it the time it needs.
Well, thank you all.
Okay, thank you
Learning
very much.
experience.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, since nobody has come in for number 12 Linden, unless somebody else has changed their mind here, we'll reopen, we'll talk, I'm sorry that took so long, folks. We'll talk about the proposed demolition of the garage at 12 Linden. Did anybody have any comments on that?
Can I just ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
This application is, so the application is to remove the existing garage, but also to replace it with a new garage? Are we only talking about the demolition of the garage right now?
We're only talking about the demolition of the garage. I think, Mr. Lifgren, your long-term plan is to replace the garage, but you haven't presented any plans at this point.
No, it'll be at least 2 or 3 years.
Okay. So whether it's with this application or another application, you'll come back as you plan to do that. Okay. Thank you, Erin. All right. Anybody want to make a motion if there's no other discussion? Okay.
Are we doing this? What is it?
Yeah, unless people have concerns or additional questions.
Whereas the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board has made the following findings of fact concerning the proposed application at
12 Linden.
12 Linden. Public hearing is not required, the requirements of SICWA have been met for this action. The structure is not listed, I assume.
The property is listed as contributing, the garage is not listed as contributing.
Regarding the work to be done at 12 Linden, the following principles were considered. And I guess it would be 2A, B. Since this is a demolition, we don't really have as many,
No, we don't.
okay. So I would leave it at 2A and B.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Would somebody like to second Pat's motion?
I would.
Thank you, Bernie, very enthusiastically. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, Liz votes yes.
Pat, yes?
Bernie, yes.
Thanks.
Erin, yes.
Yay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lifgren. Chris will send you the permit.
That's a question I had. Do I need to go to the county now and get another permit?
For demolition?
Yeah.
Tony, can you address that?
Yes, you have to call the counties. They can't do anything until these guys say it's okay. And so, yes, now you call them for their demolition.
So I have to apply to the county, pay another fee, and get another permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was the only question I had.
Okay, and I wasn't sure how to handle it because I've never
Okay.
actually demolished anything, but Tony was here to
Yes,
help,
Tony.
thank you. Okay, so Chris will process, within a week, he processes everything and gets it off to you. If you need proof for the county sooner, you can talk to him about how quickly it can get done.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Okay, Penny, would you like to say anything before we talk about your application? You don't need to. You can come up if you'd like.
Well, I mean, the only thing I would say is that, if I had windfall money, I would renovate, the barn, or to the best of my abilities. But, I mean, as it stands now, I would like to, request demolition. I know I have 2 years. I know if I want to do anything other than demolish it, that I come back to this board for review.
We certainly wouldn't discourage that. It's a very sweet barn, and I know it's a hard
I know.
decision.
I have a very difficult time even finding people that are willing to do anything other than demolish it. And I really only found the people through Jane and
Tony.
Tony.
So you have people lined up who are scheduled to demolish it?
Well, I have 3 different people willing to demolish it, but I have one person who stepped up who said that he would be interested in, further researching, trying to save it.
And removing it, dismantling it?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 people that you have, and then 1 person that I got that's willing to demolish it.
Personally, that was gonna be my plea to you. If you have somebody who's willing to dismantle it, if this board votes to approve for its demolition, and you can work with them, I still think it's a great example of a little barn, little stable, so.
No, I agree.
It would be nice to, if somebody has that project in them and you can work with them, I would applaud that. In the meantime, does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Did I understand from the photographs that the failure of the structure is essentially down at the very bottom of each of the walls? Is that accurate?
The sills, the foundation, or it's an old post and beam structure, so, with a wood floor, and that's all caving in, so, yeah, the foundation is in poor shape, and the rafter system is deteriorating.
Well, I mean, it would certainly depend on the actual structure, but where I come from, people are using timber framing as a support mechanism for existing buildings, so that where the sill is rotted out, essentially they rebuild the sill and almost hang it from this other structure. So that the whole building is, it's like a curtain wall on an office building.
And
I don't know whether it would be.
Penny has talked to contractors, even one fairly recently, and given her a price, and it's a fairly substantial price, to try to save it. And I'm sorry I had to step out, I don't know if you said it,
That's fine.
but
Yeah.
if you could save it, or in the future, before demolition, if she can save it, she's gonna come back and ask to do that.
And if somebody is willing to dismantle it for you, if you're going that route, I would encourage that, if that's feasible. Thank you, Pat. Any other questions or comments? Would anybody like to make a motion regarding this request?
This is just a demolition?
Just a demolition.
Whereas the Historic Preservation Architectural Review Board has made the following findings of fact concerning the proposal, application of
20 Nelson.
20 Nelson. A public hearing is not required, requirement to set what presumably is that the structure is not, is it? Will be listed separately.
You know, I didn't look at the nomination, it could be called out on it, but the property is on the nomination as contributing.
On the application.
Yeah.
It is.
So regarding the work to be done at 20 Nelson, the following principles were considered. Again, 2A and B.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you for adding that it was on the nomination here. I read it at the last meeting and then I forgot. Thank you. Would anybody like to second that? You want to give it a try, Aaron?
Sure, I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Ms. Woods, yes.
Yes. Is that it?
Anybody else voting?
Sure, yes.
Yes.
If you're not sure,
No,
you can
no, I-
abstain or. Thank you. Okay, great. If you do need to come back to talk to us or have somebody who wants to work with you, great. Okay,
I have two wonderful people that are willing to work with me, so that's a good start.
yeah. Well, thank you very much for your patience tonight. I honestly did not expect that first application to take so long, so I'm sorry I held everything up, but thank you. Okay. So, 47 Susquehanna, Dan, would you like to come and tell us about your project?
Absolutely.
Okay. These are Chris's. So tell us about your project.
I wrote it on 2 papers because I wasn't sure how I should hand it in. The first is creating a dormer over the side of the house on the south side next to the driveway, so that the homeowner can get in and out of the house with groceries without getting covered with snow, rain, weather. I included a picture with that. It's going to be a V-roof over top of the porch. It is going
This
to,
is the picture, correct?
there's a picture of the porch itself.
Right. So,
Yes, correct.
But you're proposing the roof that goes like this, is that what?
Yes,
So,
correct.
okay,
It's going to be 4 feet wide and 4 feet out from the building, so that it covers the entire porch and prevents weathering of the porch in the future.
so does the landing of the porch change? Does the width of the porch change in
Nope,
this?
it's just covering it. That's it.
So covering it with the post sitting on the porch, is that porch 4 feet wide?
Yes, it is. But the post will be in slightly from the edge, so there's a little bit of an overhang, but for structure, you have to do that so that it supports the roof. The architectural shingles as close as I can get it to the existing roof line now.
Okay, and the materials you're gonna be using for the structure itself?
It would be 4x4 pine posts, half-inch, half-inch plywood, and
Half-inch plywood for
the roof.
okay. The posts, and then do the railings and balusters change, or?
No, they do not.
So how do you blend the existing railings and the posts you're adding then?
There's 2 different options. I can take the posts out and create one solid post that runs from the base of the structure all the way up, or I can get a metal tie-in to tie to the post itself.
Okay. Then what's happening with the gutter? Are you wrapping the gutter around the front over the new overhang?
I just thought about that today. I was probably going to cut the gutter short so that it's only on the 2 halves of the roof system. Since it's only 4 feet from the building itself, there's not really much there, and it's over the side of the porch already. It's not really going to affect the porch set.
So you're gonna lose the gutter to the left of the door completely then?
I was gonna have to put a downspout in it because there's only a downspout on the back of the house side. I would have to put a downspout in it so they can both drain rather than filling the water.
And, with the light stays as it is?
I believe it would fall underneath the porch, so it would be just become a covered light. Essentially with the roof over top of it, yes,
And then on the V,
yes.
is that sided or is that open?
I understand the outside of it. Didn't really think about that question, to be honest with you, but I think it would probably look better sided so that it matches the rest of the house.
So what we really need for this proposal is a better drawing, not just of this, but how it blends with the roof line of the house and how this gets treated.
It would obviously, it would look much better with siding on there, because if it was open, it wouldn't look that great with the shingles behind it on the roof line.
And then
The homeowner is very open to be as cooperable as she can be. Not to change the subject, but for example, the garage, she spoke with the neighbors about it already. And they are more than open to doing so, and she decided, I did do some altercations to the footprint. She's going to actually put the windows on the south side facing the neighbor's house, so they don't have to look out their door and see a blank sheet. They're gonna be able to look out the door and see a garage with 2 windows on it to make it look nicer for them as well.
Just to understand the goal, and if she's being flexible with how we do this, the goal is to get just some roof over this entryway, so she
Yes,
can
correct.
step up and not be snowed on or rained on while opening the door, that's right.
Yes.
so where the roof line, where the proposed overhang meets the house, you have posts at the exterior, at the
Mhm.
porch level. How is that attached? Is it bracketed? What happens where it meets the house itself?
You would tie it to the roof line with 2x4s.
Okay, so you're not having any brackets over the siding?
I wouldn't have brackets, I would use 2x4s as the brackets. You run it at an angle, and on the outside of that, you would put,
So it would be like this, it would appear like that on the side, from the side perspective?
no, they would be, you run the 2x4s at angles, so that you can't even see they're there, they're underneath.
Oh, underneath the overhang. I guess I was just asking if there was gonna be a bracket on the railing sides, just
No.
because I'm trying to visualize
No,
how.
absolutely not. You wouldn't even be able to see it. It's gonna be tied up to the roof. So once it's shingled, you're not even gonna be able to tell it was added as an addition.
Do you need it, Pat? Do you need to see it?
I don't, really.
Vernon, do you have any
Oh,
questions?
I don't have that. I do need that.
Do you have any questions, Vernon?
I guess I'm just wondering if the present stairway is actually causing the problem of having to need a roof, and if it actually was, if that was modified, whether that would actually cause there not to be so much of a space between.
That I cannot give you an accurate answer on because I've only been working on the house for the
You need
past
to keep that, there you go.
month. The way it is set up now, there is more of like a barn roof that pours everything
Yeah.
onto the staircase it was put on.
Mhm.
I think that porch is as long as it is, because if it was shorter, you would have to open the door and then step down to open.
Yeah, you wouldn't have the,
You
you
have to
wouldn't
step
have,
back to, for the door swing.
yep, that's 100% correct. You have to have the right amount of footage, just so you don't step out the door and fall on the ice, for example.
So my one question is the overhang, is that gonna cover essentially the porch landing as well as that one step? Or is
It
it
would
gonna
cover
cover
the-
the step
It's
as
going
well?
to cover the entire porch landing, it would not cover the steps.
Okay,
We talked about it, and that would protrude the least amount from the house, so it didn't create an eyesore.
Any other questions about the porch?
I would, wonder about the snow that comes off to the, as you're looking at the doorway, the snow that comes off the left side of the would-be dormer. It's gonna pile up against the side of the house. On this picture, if you're gonna get a big pile of snow there, I'm just concerned about the snow sitting there and rotting underneath the,
I don't think that's going to be an
Okay.
issue, I was gonna do a 2-3 pitch on it, so that it's, when it hits, the roof there, I wanna say is the roof above that is very steep, so it comes off, and
Okay.
this basically slows the snow down from hitting the ground.
And the structure of this porch is prepared for the weight of a roof like that and a structure like that and snow like that? Are you
Yes.
confident in the construction of this porch? We don't design projects, so I need you to kind of, tell us whether it's going to be one post or whether you're gonna bracket the existing posts to a post.
I think I would probably just, because if you create a bracket, it's going to create a weak point. I would probably pull it out and do one post the entire length.
I agree,
add
I
some
think that's a
additional
much
support.
better choice.
Yes. It's gonna create more support, the more, I guess I'm gonna say, the more screws you put in a thing, doesn't always make it stronger, a lot of the time it weakens them.
No, I think. Okay, would you like to tell us what you want to do with the garage?
There's actually 2 proposals in there. From the drawing that I drew, she had changed her mind. Originally, she wanted the garage in the backyard. However, she decided that she'd rather keep the backyard to have a backyard, and she would like to have the garage extended out into the driveway, which would be out towards Susquehanna Street. It's 14 by 24, and that would push it out into the driveway so that the corner of the building, I believe it was 6.5 feet from the corner of the building. So essentially, it's just gonna make it so she could get a second vehicle in the garage. Because the backyard isn't quite large enough to have 2 cars side by side, that's really the only option. So obviously, if it's a 2-car garage, you have to move one of your vehicles out onto the road to get a second one in there, but it's something that you unfortunately have to lose.
Is your client prepared to do that?
Yes. Yep. It's going to be an exact mirror of the garage, it's there already. I took a few different pictures, I have the footprints, bunch of diagrams, that fortunately the last one. So you can see everything a little bit more clearly.
Can I ask you, these proposals, it
Yes,
sounds like your customer is saying either one's fine with me.
yes,
And so,
yes.
and does the neighbor have a preference in terms of the front or the back?
Unfortunately, I did not run into the neighbor today, otherwise I would have a signed piece of paper for you.
Mhm.
But as the homeowner and the neighbor spoke yesterday, Not yesterday, it would be Friday, excuse me. She seemed to have no issue with it at all.
With either one, the front or the back extension, it was nothing material to the.
She was more leaning, the homeowner, Sam, was more leaning to the front when she told the neighbor about
To
it.
being built off the front.
Yes, correct. And she did not seem to have a problem with it at all. Obviously, Sam let the homeowner know next door, that obviously you guys would have to be in contact with her to get an approval.
I was just curious, because it's not that you're coming and saying we want this, you're saying, hey, we want to do something, and sort of you guys pick, it's almost like up to us.
That's why I labeled them proposal,
Right.
proposal 1 and proposal 2. Proposal 1 is what the homeowner would like.
The homeowner would like it in the front.
Yes.
And the neighbor doesn't care if it's the front or the back, as far as we know.
Yes, I only put proposal 2 in there just in case for some reason you guys said,
I see.
I don't want it to go in the front, it has to go in the back.
That's really the second choice.
Yes.
If the other one doesn't work.
Chris, with respect to setbacks and proximity to the neighbor's property, do you need consent of the neighbor, or?
It's 3 feet 6 inches.
It's only 3'6" from the neighbor's property line, so this, we would have to go to get a variance from the ZBA, in that the neighbor's consent would be part of it.
That's what I assumed, I was just kind of
Yeah,
asking that.
that's what I was thinking too.
And is it, yeah, okay. So regarding the actual proposed structure, not even the location per se, are you planning on reusing the existing garage door?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and then same clapboards, same window,
Absolutely, yes.
same
Everything's,
light?
it's going to be hardy board on the siding, same windows. The light, obviously, if it had to come, if you guys allowed it to come to the front, we would use the same light on the, as I said in the, it's going to be an identical garage. If it was allowed to come forward like the homeowner wants, everything that's there is going to come 24 feet forward, and it's not really, there won't be any changes at all.
Oh, and the windows are on the neighbor's side?
Yes, correct.
Do you have any idea when the garage was built?
8 years ago. 8 years ago.
Eight, okay.
Yeah, I think this project was at the same meeting when I was here for something.
It looks familiar.
Yeah, I remember
No,
this
it
garage.
was very convenient as he was going, because there's a rather large file, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, that would be great if you could make a copy of that, because I guess the way I was thinking it, if it's gone through once already, they've obviously thought of all of these little, the little quirks and things like that.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I do not believe that there is any stacked parking in a covered structure like this anywhere else in the village.
Not that I know of. I know of a portico and then a garage, but not stacked parking that I can think of. And I wondered if there are insurance/fire issues related to that, but that was just something that popped into my head, not that anything I know specifically about. So, I'm not sure if there are.
On that note, she only has one car. She made it sound like she wanted a two-car garage. I think that is mostly for storage. Just because at her previous house that she had in Fly Creek, which I did work on for her this past year, she's never even had a second car. I believe she's single, doesn't have any family that lives with her, so it's just, I can't give you that answer 100% for sure, but I have never seen her even with a second car. It's just in her garage. When there's a vehicle in there, you can barely walk around in the garage. There's a cooler on one side of her vehicle, for example, and you can't even really squeeze between the cooler and the vehicle. It's such a tight area.
And will the driveway be expanded? I'm assuming you're pouring concrete and.
Yes.
These are footings, and then where the garage stops, that width stops, and you maintain the normal width of the driveway, the existing width of the driveway?
Yes, correct.
Pat, do you have any questions? Let's be,
I have one other.
go for it.
So what is the size of this lot? I know this is not the zoning board, but does expanding this garage have anything? I mean, does it build out too much of the property? I don't have a sense of how big the
From
lot
the
is.
back of the garage, the lot goes back an additional
Does this say
80 feet?
Does that say 80 feet?
Yes.
Yes, I thought it was 90, and then I measured it again today, and it was 80.
So it goes back toward Pioneer Street, correct? It's the Pioneer
Yes.
Street side, and so that's a really deep space between Pioneer.
It goes back 80 feet, and to the left of the garage, I want to say 30, 35. That one I did not measure because I didn't think about it. It was such a distance from the edge of the garage.
I am struggling with this because bringing it forward really messes up the balance of this garage with the neighbor's garage. And probably in line with, it's probably currently relatively visually in line with other garages on the street where they are.
I'd have to say no on that one. The neighbor's house to the left, the garage is 25 feet forward. It's the back of their garage, and it goes further to the road, closer than that.
But it isn't 2 cars deep.
It's two car wide, actually.
Pat, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Bernie, do you have any
I
questions?
do not.
Aaron, do you have any other questions?
No.
So I will ask the board with this particular application whether, without the drawing that blends the overhang with the house, whether the application is complete. Are we satisfied with the explanation we've gotten at this point? Or do you need to see a drawing blending the house and the overhang?
Well, the question, I guess, is like or insist.
Sorry.
I would prefer to see a
Which is what we
drawing.
Which is what we normally would ask for, Dan, to see a drawing, putting this in the context of this drawing in the context of the house, so putting a drawing all together that shows us how this and the rest of the house look together.
I'm just kind of trying to think about that myself. Oh, there it is. So for example, if I had lines across it like that, would that be adequate?
Well, if you're gonna do clapboards, but we need to see ideally different perspectives, like we need to see where the roof line is that hits the house, how this
As far as
blends in with the other roof line,
You wouldn't
Mhm.
with the existing house. So we need,
You need
know,
more detail.
yes, and,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're gonna use the clapboards, if it's not gonna be open, showing the clapboards, things like that.
I'm just drawing some pictures so I can get a better
Right.
realization myself. So if I had it like this, where
Yeah, and but
This-
where it
this was the
accurately
roof line
shows us the
here.
measurements
Okay,
of how all of that works together. So something that shows us, if you're talking the pitch, shows us exactly where the peak
where
of the
where the clap
overhang
goes.
is
Yeah, okay.
compared to the roof line. And then Chris, is this on the zoning agenda for the,
I haven't created it yet.
Okay. will be on the zoning agenda
Yeah,
for the
copy
next
of will
zoning
be-
meeting.
yeah.
Just a quick question on that. If I was to get a signature from the neighbors saying that they are okay with that, would it still have to go to the zoning?
Yes.
Okay.
And, you were looking at the overview on where the other garage lines are?
Yeah, the other, well, the property line is definitely 3.5 feet
Mhm.
from, and if we're extending this, we're still within, we're not within the 10-foot setback. So I understand the ZBA would have to.
No, I'm just interested in garages on the
So
street.
the-
Oh, yeah, I was
Yeah.
just looking there, the
Yeah.
other garage is indeed, it's funny described,
Pretty.
is more, see
Okay.
there, is more
Right.
forward.
Right,
In fact,
That's a pre-H park garage.
yes, it is.
right. But it is true that it would be putting this one more in line with, there's some visual unity.
But not, I mean, these two garages are right next to each other, and there is already the visual unity of that, versus there's a yard in between that
And a whole
garage.
house structure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And are the next door neighbors, just out of curiosity, the Sanfords?
You may know.
Okay, Edmonds,
This
okay.
this was your old house, correct? Yeah, she would know a bit about it. I've never met the neighbors. I've met
Okay,
them, but
thank you.
never
No.
really introduced each other.
I struggle with bringing it forward as opposed to taking it back, especially with an 80-foot lot. There's plenty of room there, it's a flat lot. That would seem to have less impact for the neighbor and even for this particular house. That's what I'm really struggling with. And that's why I'm kind of wondering, in terms of zoning, where they're gonna fall, because we could say, okay, this is okay, but zoning could really question that too, because we are looking at the appearance of it, but there is a zoning issue that's a bigger issue. And
Dan and I actually discussed that, he came just the other day, and I said, hey, let's get you in here to start the conversation. Well, you will have to go to the zoning board meeting, which might result in this not happening.
Right,
Well, briefed on
yeah.
that.
Yeah, the one thing is, as the driveway's set now, there is I'm gonna say it's probably 12 to 13 foot fence that runs the whole length of where the driveway is. So the only really addition would be extending that 14 feet towards the neighbors. It's very similar to the side of the garage already.
The fence,
Yes.
but it's on the other side of the driveway. I mean,
Yes,
and
yep.
you're building a two-story structure. It's different.
That's why I put in the two different
Yeah.
options in there, because I thought this may come up and I wanted to, prior preparation.
And just in keeping with the character of the historic neighborhood, you just don't put an outbuilding that close to your house unless it's attached. Like it doesn't make architectural sense with the other outbuildings, the other accessory structures
What it
in
would
the
be,
neighborhood. Like it would make more sense to have it extend out the back than to have it closer to, I mean, basically you don't want your horses next to your kitchen.
Mhm.
And-
Yeah, the only thing with that is it was 6.5 feet from the roof dormer that I was talking about to go out the front door of the garage and get directly into the house without being in the rain for a long period of time.
I think it would definitely be more convenient, but I think that it probably is true that having it further set back is probably more in keeping with the historic.
That's sort of what I was thinking as well, but
Yeah.
that's why you have to come here and ask.
Right.
Pat?
Is there any lot coverage issue is?
No, probably not, because the lot's so deep, we've got 80 feet behind the garage, so it's a deep lot, even though it's narrow.
Okay.
So, there's probably not a lot coverage issue, I think you can,
Liz, how would you weigh, let's say, the neighbor actually preferred it farther forward, as opposed, how do you weigh that concern with the historic?
I still think it's really out of balance, especially with that other garage being set back. It just, it's very, you know, kind of that visually from the street would be very intense. Aaron pointed out, and it's true, that the garage to the house to the left that's closer up is pre-historic preservation board. We would never have approved a garage up close like that on this tiny narrow space. You know, and we've certainly had pushback when we have approved contemporary garages close to historic houses like this. So it is really trying to kind of balance needs of having a garage that functions for a property owner and how to maintain that impact from the street. So, and, you know, it isn't like, what's the neighbor gonna say, although they have a right to say something, as much as the impact on the street facing view of the property, so. I think because we're asking you to, because it has to go to zoning, and that's part of this discussion, because we're asking you to create a more accurate drawing of this.
Okay.
I think you need to really go back and talk to the homeowner about our concerns, and if the homeowner would like to come to the next meeting, or may want to come to the zoning meeting with you too, because you're doing a great job representing, but sometimes it's a conversation that's really important that a homeowner be involved in.
Okay.
And we often ask homeowners to come when there are complicated questions like this.
Okay.
So you're not getting shot as the messenger.
No, that's completely fine.
But in terms of the homeowner presenting the second option as being fine with them, then.
Yeah, and in that.
Yeah,
I think
that's what she initially started with, that she wanted to the back. And then I want to say like a week went by and she said, you know, I've been thinking about it, I would much rather prefer it in the front, so that it's closer to the street.
But it sounds like going forward, the best scenario is going to be, if she is
Get it
going to
heard.
be the back, the board's much more happy with it being in the back, and I bet the zoning board likely would too, but we'll have to see.
Okay.
And it certainly has less visual impact for what is a very odd structure in our historic village in terms of traditionally just having that deep garage is, you know, not something we see, so kind of setting it to the back so it has less impact is really preferred. Okay, thank you very much, Dan.
Not a problem.
We
When
have-
is when will the zoning?
August,
Zoning is the first Tuesday of the month.
that would be August 1st. And we are on August 8th next month.
Yes, it's August 1st.
Zoning on August 1st, and we'll be here on August 8th.
Okay, so I'll just plan on being here the first 2 weeks in August.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Ben, thank you for waiting.
My pleasure.
Hope you found it entertaining and enjoyable.
Exciting.
I love zoning and plans.
Arguments for getting your application in early.
Thanks for squeezing me in.
So, what would you like to do, Ben?
Okay, yeah, so I have a one-car garage in the back of my yard, and it's not in great shape. I tried to send pictures of the foundation cracking and heaving. And it's, you know, tilting over a little bit. So my eventual goal, if I'm allowed to do it, is knock it down, pour a new foundation, build a new garage. I'm in no rush to do any of, you know, I just figured I'd start things off and come here and see what people need and this and that. I think in my ideal scenario, I would make it a little bit bigger, so there's also like a door in the front, something like that. You know, right now, we don't actually even use the garage for a car, because the backyard is fenced in, but I want that to be like an eventual thing. So it'd be nice to have the car in there and a little storage space. There's a part of me that is also imagining like a 2-story garage and even more space up there. Not living space, but, you know, storage or.
Go big.
But I don't know if that is something that would get approved or not. So, you know, worst case, I don't do anything and that's fine. But, you know, if I just kept it new but perfectly as is, that is also, you know, okay.
An improvement.
Yeah. So,
Okay. so
yeah,
we didn't-
I don't have any drawings or
No,
anything. I
it's
tried to
okay, if
attach
you
some
don't have a
pictures of the
plan to
garage.
do it yet, it's not, you don't need
Yeah.
to, you can follow up with drawings
Yeah.
and come in when you know what you're gonna do.
So it's,
But,
sorry, I'm
Go ahead.
interrupting you. It seemed like step 1 is permission to demolish,
Mhm.
and then step 2 is probably zoning variances, and then step 3 is,
Good.
yeah,
so.
and because of the proximity to the property line, you'll end up in front of zoning, you know that?
Yeah, that's right.
But what we'll do is, if somebody wants to make a motion to set a public hearing for the August 8th meeting regarding the demolition of the garage at 69 Beaver Street, we'll start with that. And then when you're ready to move forward and have a plan, you know, build in a little time knowing it'll go to zoning, things like that, and we'll rake you over the coals then.
So as far as that goes, would I first get the variances I need and then come back to you guys? To you all?
I think it kind of has happened in a variety of different ways, like zoning wants to know we're gonna approve something, so you can come to us with a concept, like you decide you do want a bigger barn, or a bigger garage, or a 2-story garage, you come to us with a general concept, it doesn't have to be architectural drawings.
Yeah.
And a sense of the footprint, so you know how close it is gonna be to the property line, et cetera. And then it's kind of a dance, you know, we may or may not say what we said to him, which is come back after zoning and with a little bit of a change of plan. But, you know, that's kind of how it happens, so, okay.
Okay. I know you asked if anyone has a motion for the public hearing, but I have one question.
Sure, go for it.
In the future, when I make plans and get details to you guys about what I do want to build, is it beneficial to try and match the current garage, or does that not really matter anymore once it's a new structure? You know, the existing garage has novelty siding, and let's say I'd rather put in lap siding. Like, does that, you know, I mean, you can't, and it depends on this,
You're
there's already
already
a lot.
removing the historic fabric, so
Yeah.
we wouldn't mandate that it mimic the existing.
Yeah.
What you might do is, are there plans, somebody's going into the office, I'm not sure if they're, are there plans to, reside the house, and are you trying to match, I'm just spitballing. Are you
Well, the
trying
house
to match
has
the
to.
garage in the house, or the house has a certain kind of siding, so you'd like to have similar siding or complementary siding on the garage, things like that.
Okay.
We don't design, we just respond to what you're proposing and just tell us why you're proposing that. I don't know if you want to add anything, Pat. Pat's a good person to weigh in on design and choices and stuff.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Mm.
okay.
Okay.
Anybody else want to tell Ben anything else about that?
How old is the garage?
I mean, I don't know for sure. I think I checked in the historic listing and it said 1900.
It's
And I think the house
early
is
1900s.
1885.
Yeah,
It was built for a car,
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
not for a horse.
so first quarter
Yeah.
of the 1900s probably.
How deep is the garage?
Not very deep, right?
Like the dimensions of it.
It looks-
I have to check car size.
Do you need a
It
picture
looks
of
like
that?
a car
And
size.
the garage was built in 1900?
It might have been 1920,
I'd say
1930.
first quarter.
I seem to recall the listing saying 1900, but I don't.
And
That might
how old's the house?
The thing said 1885.
And it's got the required eagle on it.
Yeah, that's from in 1976.
Yes, we had one too. I think I gave it to somebody.
Is there any
who admired it.
indication, is there any indication that the garage was ever lengthened?
Not that I've ever noticed. The book's pretty,
Carriages usually, were shorter.
you know, I'm not a contractor or
I mean,
anything, but when
When cars came along, garages sort of got lengthened.
Bumped out,
Right.
yeah. I think this was built for
This
a
one,
car.
this looks like it's the whole length.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that a design that was more in keeping with that early 1900s type of a design would be more likely to be accepted by the historic preservation?
If you, you know, what we don't encourage is creating a false sense of historicism, but if you say this style, this interesting trim under the eaves and this novelty siding was what was on the building we tore down, we want a different footprint to accommodate a bigger car or to expand our ability to use it. But, you know, this is what we took down, so we want to mimic it. You know, that's not creating a false sense of historicism as much as trying to complement or pay homage to what was there, so.
And I like that, but the other gentleman who was in here earlier had the idea of looking at other examples from around that time period to get an idea of what might be appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not mandatory. You know.
And don't copy the window.
You mean the casement window? What about the garage door?
No, I love that garage door.
Cat wants your garage door.
No,
We're just picking on you.
So you could like look up and down the street and see what's going on with other people's garages that are kind of from the same time period as around this one you're taking down, or the time period your house was built.
You could ask Penny for her really cool, a garage
Yeah,
barn
same
that
time
she's
period.
taking
Yeah,
down.
there you go.
It's two-story, we have a picture.
Move that
And-
over to your house. That's happened.
Jessie could coach you on how she did that, so
Yeah.
she can, you know, tell you how to do it.
You'd be our hero.
What is our position on roll-up doors?
Up or down?
No. I mean,
Yes, they,
half mast. In other words, that garage that was built in around 1900 had,
Right,
Doors
no,
open
I mean,
like-
we've never turned people away who wanted to, as much as I hate to see the open doors go, we've never turned people away who want to install a lift door to replace their open doors. And it's funny because I was going to point you to a garage on my street that's a little bigger and approximately the same period as another example of, and they came at one point to replace, I think it was a sliding door.
well, and there's a very expensive solution, and that is to have a roll-up door made out of historic doors.
Yes,
oh,
yeah, very heavy solution too, a very heavy solution too. Yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
worked.
No, but
just
we,
push the button.
yeah, I mean, and some people might argue that's for safety too, or, you know.
That's what?
Some people might argue that's for safety. We've never told people they couldn't have a roll-up door or replace a roll-up door, as much as it kills me every time we lose some nice old garage doors like that, because I remember that.
So much pain in this job.
My heart. So, what else, Ben? We were digressing. You got us on the end of the show here.
no, I've got what I need.
Good, okay. So there is not a mandate to present a design that is historic.
Yeah,
But you may
I
feel
think
free to,
yeah.
you know, present something you feel is appropriate. See, we're not shy about giving our opinions, so, you'll get it. Times 5, when Dave's here too. Okay,
I call it phony colony. It doesn't have to be phony colony.
yeah,
No phony colonial.
yeah, it does,
Just,
you
no.
could go
Yeah.
really interesting and modern and build Sydney your little art studio on the second floor and come in and propose that, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so, did we do a motion to set the public hearing? We don't want to
No,
forget
I don't
about
think
that.
A motion to set the public hearing to demolish the garage at whatever this address is,
69 Beaver.
69 Beaver.
69 Beaver.
Okay, do we have a second?
We need to cite the code.
Oh, so Erin has not been
Oh,
given.
I've not done this
No,
before.
Erin
I-
has not been
I-
given the book. She was very brave
I
at putting
have it,
herself there.
But no, I have the code on my computer.
So,
Where in the.
so we are looking at 326 and 27. So we usually start with 327, 326E? Is that where we end up? 326E. And Pat, do you want to give her some hints about what you were citing? Do we have to do it for the motion to set
For the
public
hearing?
hearing? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, why are we torturing her?
Okay,
We'll work on that before next
Okay,
month. This is her
thank you.
first meeting.
just
Very well.
devise new ways of torture before I show up.
That's right. Okay, I'll second that motion to set the public hearing. Liz votes yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And Erin, I'm
Well, I
assuming.
made the motion.
Since you
so
motioned,
clearly
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's
Right.
allowed.
Okay. Well, sometimes you never know.
Yeah, perfect. I'll work on figuring out what I want to do.
And
then see you next month.
You don't have to know what you want to do.
yeah, you don't have to know what you want to do
Just-
immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so
You don't have to come with a
You
plan.
just want to demolish the garage.
Yeah.
Just demolish the garage.
Yeah, and the
well, I don't
application.
want to demolish the garage without approval
To put something
else
up.
there.
Okay.
Idea.
So, yeah, so.
It's
do-
not like about to fall down. It's just not usable
Gotcha.
in the way I want.
You can come back next month with something or
Mhm.
soon, in
Yep.
terms of, start early and,
How long do approvals last for?
2 or 3 years, Chris, and
2
you
years.
do renew, last month it was renewal month where lots of people came and got their permits renewed. And somebody even had a punch card with at least 3 permit renewals on the same application. He was getting his $25 for that.
Is it safe to say that if that were to be demolished and was to be recreated exactly as it was, that would?
That's replacement in kind.
So that's okay?
Yeah,
So
except
you-
Pat doesn't want you to use the window.
So yeah, that's right. So you wouldn't
I
have
don't
to
like
worry
that.
that you wouldn't be able to put up something, just FYI, that's sort of a guarantee as long as
Okay.
it's.
So we leave it in the tag. You're saying it was replaced in kind, you wouldn't even need to show up.
Right,
here.
right.
You just-
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have to worry that if you.
Yeah,
You wouldn't be able to
there
get
exists something I
anything.
need
Yeah,
to do,
exactly.
for sure.
I don't think we've ever not approved some, I mean,
Yeah.
we want you to do what you want to do. It's just a process of
Mhm.
sometimes give and take. Sometimes it's like, great, you're good. So,
Perfect. Awesome, thank you, everyone.
thanks,
Yeah.
Ben.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, am I stealing any of your files? That's the Susquehanna Street file. You want this file back? Okay. All right, so everybody, if we didn't do proper introductions at the beginning of the meeting, turn the recording off.
Do you want to approve this?
Oh, yeah, let's approve the minutes of the last meeting if we
If
can. We can't approve the June meeting because Dave isn't here and Bernie wasn't here, so we don't have 3 of us who were at that last meeting. You were at the special meeting, right, Bernie?
Yes.
Okay, so the 3 of us can approve those minutes. So, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting on May 31st?
So moved.
Awesome. They are wrestled over who motioned and who seconded. Do we have, you were here in May,
Yes.
and you were here in May.
Yep.
So we're good on that. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the May meeting?
Yes.
Second? Yay. Okay, we'll work on the June minutes
Some other
in
time.
August when you and I and Dave are here, because we were the 3 people at that meeting.
Right.
Okay, so the next time we're in the same meeting, we'll do that. All right, thank you. So this is Erin,
Hey,
and
Greg.
Erin Richardson is our newest member. And Pat and Bernie, I don't know if you know either of them.
No,
And then Chris is our zoning enforcement officer, interim, but interim is rolling out into a more than interim. And Marcia is the assistant village clerk, and she takes the minutes at the meetings, and so,
I met Marcia this morning.
she swore you in, or
So you-
Jenna swore
No,
you
Jenna
in?
swore me in. She
You-
helped me get to the sworn in, get sworn in.
so
Yes,
you've
we're
been
gonna
on these
adjourn the
boards
meeting.
Before, right?